7 o'clock on the dot this morning, Thursday, 9th December 2021, the day where we do observe the International Anti-Corruption Day. And this year's theme is your right, your role, and saying no to corruption. My name is Priscilla Naloga. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda once again into a newsreel where I am joined by Robert Cherabo and also Felix Nkunda. Now, before we go any further into our topical conversation for this morning, which is regarding the fight against corruption, especially here in Uganda, as far as our public offices are concerned, our agencies are concerned, and where we stand to date. Regarding our poll question,
what are the elements of corruption of Uganda's public officials? What are the elements of corruption of Uganda's public officials? Now be able to hit our social media platform, that is on Twitter, hashtag UBCGMU, and of course on WhatsApp 0709602592.
Recently, we did have the Anti-Corruption Coalition for Uganda coming out and under the IGG stating that they will be taking a new turn and twist in the fight against corruption in public service offices. And one of those was to actually bring in light something that was very interesting and touching the lifestyle of public servants and how that will be audited. They called it the lifestyle audit that would be initiated to make sure that those that are serving in public offices do actually handle their offices with care and deliver to the citizens of Uganda in accordance to what they're supposed to be doing. But we want to look at some of the things that have been the embedment of this conversation. We've had the anti-corruption law, we've had policies being raised in this regard, and Robert Cherabo, in regards to this, what are they and where do we stand today, given the fact that we're seeing more increase than decrease regarding the fight against corruption?
Actually, Priscilla, yesterday when I was reading about corruption in this country and reading about the various institutions in this country, it came to my notice that what we are investing in fighting corruption and what we are recovering are not in tandem at all. But when you hear offices like the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, yesterday I was watching a documentary where they were interviewing, that is the head of the unit, Colonel Edith Nakalema. She's doing a tremendous work. And she said they have so far been able to ensure that about 25 government officials have been arrested and convicted. Then they have recovered 30 billion Uganda shillings. When you go to that office alone, look at what's their budget. Go to the IGG's office, what is their budget? Go to the Anti-Corruption Court, what is its budget? Go to all these agencies that are aiming at fighting corruption. How much are we putting as a country and how much are these agencies recovering? Priscilla and Felix, you will get shocked because they are not in tandem at all. There was a report that was released in 2019 by the Anti-Corruption Court, and it was very clear that they had been able to have about 100 officers arrested, that is under told to return money, and they were looking at over 70 billion. But I want to tell you, till now, they have only been able to recover 1 billion shillings. Then even when you look at all these people that are told to recover money, we get less. But going back to the question you've asked me, when you look at Uganda, I want to say, I think we are a paper tiger. We have very good laws, very good institutions, because when I was looking at our laws, I saw that every aspect in the fight of corruption, these laws have gone in there and captured it. What you're lacking is willingness. When you look at that is the Corruption Act, we have the Anti-Corruption Act of Uganda. If you look at its clauses, it will properly give you how it handles such corrupt cases. Go to our penal code. Then you have the Inspectorate of Government Act, that is 2002. Still you see, you declare your wealth, you do this, everything is catered for. The Public Finance Act of 2015, of course this is in Parliament. They want to amend it to allow, that is, be able to collect and give revenue earned from, that is our oil, but also that is something. There's a lot of contradiction in that law. Why are you amending it? But it has been the legal document we've been using. Look at a very strict one, that is the Leadership Code Act of 2002, where leaders declare their wealth, where leaders are supposed to know how to conduct themselves, how do we nab them. You continue. From the lead, you'll have the penal code that provides instruments to deal with various corruption offenses, including embezzlement, causing financial losses, abuse of office, and fraud. Still, the Leadership Code Act is designed to increase transparency and to curb corruption among senior public officials, and criminalizes attempts of corruption and either active or passive bribery, extortion, bribery of public officials, and abuse of office. But even when you receive a donation that is above 5 currencies, you declare this. So Priscilla, when you look at this basket of laws that we have, you clearly understand that these laws are sufficient enough. That is why you've seen some few people, the likes of Godfrey Kazinda, the likes of Jimmy Ramafa, the likes of this lawyer, I think was Bob Kasango, having been able to curb these people. And I don't want to believe that these were not smart enough. I don't want to believe that maybe these had, maybe never gave kickbacks to where it is due. But I want to believe if these same laws were able to ensure they curb, they arrest such people, and we have the institutions in place, very big offices, beautiful offices, with actually people that have the knowledge. When you go to the office of the IGG, you're going to find experts in handling this. What is hindering this? Many a times we've lacked the will. Because to fight corruption, you need the laws, you need the institutions, then you need the will that these laws can arrest, can hold everybody equally responsible. They face the wrath of the law. Former IGG Justice Faith Mwanda, once I was watching some talk show, and she said that, you see, the fight against corruption was a bit hard for me. That many people would arrest, many people would convict, somehow they were let off the hook by some other forces. So these forces are enemies in the fight against corruption. That is why sometimes you have issues like selective justice, sometimes cases being handled, then there are some other voices saying, do not go, that is not a good area to trend on. So at the end of the day, this is why we still have challenges.
Okay. Speaking of which, we also do have under the judiciary, we do have the anti-corruption division that was created to support the fight against corruption. Upon its inception, it had objectives, and we want to get an assessment from you, Felix Nkunda, in regards to that division ever since inception. How has it aided the fight against corruption in Uganda?
Well, the establishment of the anti-corruption court as a particular arm or a particular branch, if you may seek to call, of the High Court carries jurisdictional mandate to cater and cover the issues of corruption. Now, corruption, as Robert has tried to put it, to unfold it in particular anomalies or particular legalese or draftings, you'll find that its manifestation up till today has been the biggest challenge of the court to cause the true operations against it. When you talk about the role of such a court, if you want to bring it from that angle in the fight against corruption, you may in your own self defeat the fight, in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. One, the anti-corruption court does not stand in unison away from the general mandate of the judiciary as an institution or as an arm of government. It categorically works in resonance with the entire absolute purpose of the judiciary. In fact, if I may mention, but not limited to the same, I will say the High Court of Uganda has various branches, or you look at the land, civil, you look at now that anti-corruption, you look at the International Crimes Division, which was formerly, I think, one of the pioneers, is now the CJ. Why am I saying this? As I said a couple of days ago, the law is immovable unless it is moved. The judiciary, the best they can do is put in place a particular court with that absolute jurisdiction. Now, it means also that the duty then is thrown back to the relevant authorities in terms of those that should be able to move this static law. There is no judge who, in their capacity, and I stand to be corrected, can from the, let's say from the anti-corruption court can say, you go and investigate this person. It's not in their jurisdiction. They're only sitting there to wait. When you bring something, they tell you, okay, how is the evidence? What do we do? This is it, this is it, this is it. It means that it is actually at the end of the trail. This anti-corruption court is at the end of the trail. And today's celebrations, if they be called so, must be able to address all the other impediments before we get even to court. The question is, when you have, or when you're faced with a scourge or an evil like corruption, what is the first thing to do? Uganda has acknowledged the existence of corruption since time immemorial. How useful has that been?
And in 2019, we had the zero tolerance to corruption policy. 2019. Well, I thought now it has come to an end with this policy, with this preaching. I want to use it, corruption, anti-corruption preaching. Now we have them. So,
is it good enough? All we are doing in Uganda is acknowledging. In fact, we are not willing even to lie about corruption. And the evidence of the fact that we are acknowledging the existence of corruption is in those institutions that you have all mentioned. Putting aside a particular court, that is an acknowledgement. Forming these Akina State House, you have the IGG, you have PAC in Parliament, you have COSASE in Parliament. You're simply acknowledging the vice of corruption. I don't see any institution that is put in place to push out corruption.
So are we in the book of Lamentations?
That is in my opinion.
Yesterday or the other day, we were having a conversation still around corruption. And one of the things that was brought to light is that the embedment factor that is continuing to allow the harboring and the acceptance or acknowledgement, for that matter, of corruption is poverty. But then if we are to flip it to the side of, you know, the public servants that we are referring to in this particular conversation, they're not poor, their social statuses are not doing bad. They earn quite relatively well for them to be attracted to corruption because of poverty. So then that begs the question, in regards to public offices or the public sector, what are the underlying causes? What are those things that are allowing the continued practice of corruption? Because actually one of the advocates against corruption did come out to say that now corruption in Uganda is sophisticated.
Well, for me, I think we've done enough of romancing corruption in our country. That is why we see that people commit these offenses and walk away with impunity. If a person, I'm just using an example, maybe if a person was in one position of leadership, the next time is another position of leadership, he's been promoted, yet these are corrupt officials. So as long as in our lovely country, Uganda, people can still take government funds and nothing seriously is done, this level of impunity is what is going to continue. Let me tell you, Felix and Priscilla, nations we study about today in this world, how they were able to fight corruption, they used two elements. One, they looked at their legal structures, and the second, there is a time when you read in their history that they had a U-turn where they were examples of people who were determined. Over and over, read about Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew, how this guy set up serious examples to show to the world that for us, we are saying no to corruption today. As long as you still have people who, you know, corruption these days, and Felix talks about courts, there are people who have stolen money that even the blind can't see. When the IGG talked about lifestyle audit and said, okay, we are going to go and follow up their lifestyle, it is very, very obvious that these legal, I call them gymnastics, then bail, then bond, then again he appeals, all this nonsense. If we can bring this to a standstill and say no, a corrupt case must be handled within this period, Like when we went to politics, we were very clear. We said a by-election must be held at such a time. If a person is removed from politics, so if we set a time frame, if we empower the investigative machinery of this country, if we ensure that once a person has been convicted, either who or who, let them face the wrath of the law as it is. I remember some time back, we had our former vice president. This person had issues. I saw Uganda caucus march for us back to Uganda. I saw even religious leaders move for us to need the no. So as long as we still have that romancing of corruption, sin is sin. Corruption is a sin. If your child, if your cousin, if your relative commits a crime, please, let's say for the good of Uganda, go and face the wrath of the law.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Director of Public Prosecution, Honorable Lady Judge Jane Francis Bodo said corruption is the hardest case to investigate. And she continued to say that these cases are not committed by regular thieves, as well as experts in this field, are the ones that do it. And then she also goes ahead to say that syndicates and technology have made it even harder and more complicated for the judiciary to be able to conclude in some of these cases.
Absolutely. You have seen most of the corruption cases take as long as 7 years, and you can imagine where the justice is sought in that. But if I may put a rejoinder to what Ndogu Robert was saying earlier, I want to say this as a matter of fact. People are discussing corruption like a high school debate of opposer and proposers, and this is the painful thing. One of the biggest causes of corruption is that what to be stolen is available, and that's the first thing. You can't steal what is not there. The poor management of government funds is the only problem. Of course, it's the only cause. That's not even dilly-dally. Poor financial management of government funds. Simple. Plain. All the monies that have been stolen were either channeled to do something or meant to go somewhere that they didn't reach where they're supposed to go, or didn't buy actually what they should have bought. That's why now the relationship to poverty to that is where? For example, when you're building a house and you talk about issues of security, you know what to do. You say, I have to put burglar here, do this, do this, buy this padlock. But because, in fact, it is seemingly or it is persuasively acknowledgeable that corruption will never leave Uganda, because the people in these institutions love that corruption stays there. You have the PPDAs, you have what? If you have ways of how government purchases things, why they not followed? Have you heard of this very, very lousy discussion of the Uganda railways? Very lousy discussion. And someone comes before a committee and they have the audacity to say, they didn't involve us, so we also left them. Now, how do you tell me that is poverty?
And not corruption.
The money to be stolen is available. People are looking at money. The PSs in these ministries,
means on how they
are looking at
get
billions
that
of money. Definitely, absolutely.
Meaning
and then
that
they syndicate
in the systems and
the syndicate comes after. Tosobola kubba kitaliwo. The first problem, the availability of government resources. Government money is there. There's what we call poor financial administration and management in government institutions. That is the bottom line. How do you say that PS Chirabo can come and take 100 million billions? How? Is it, the money is not there like a bottle of hallelujah that I come and pick. That money is coming from the consolidated fund. How does even 500 shillings cross from government coffers to account of Chirabo.
How? You know,
is Chirabo selling something to government?
The statistics under the anti-corruption unit actually also support what you're saying, because they say that on a daily they actually receive about 300 complaints regarding corruption. In the last few years since inception, those are now 3 years, they've had over 300,000 cases of corruption. But guess how many of those have actually received conviction? Only 14.
And even to supplement on that,
3 years, only 14.
Just also to give you other statistics that is very interesting when we are talking about courts, why I say that sometimes we romance corruption in this country. This was an article that came out on the 2nd of December 2019. And it is a report from the Anti-Corruption Court. At least 100 people have been convicted for corruption and ordered to return more than 70 billion they stole from government and private companies in the last 10 years since the Anti-Corruption Court was created. However, out of the 70 billion, records show that the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, DPP, has so far recovered or managed to recover 1 billion shillings.
But
the records also indicate that since 2010, the court has issued compensation orders in 100 case files, of which 27 have been followed up. And one of the compensation cases involves 3 former top officials of the Ministry of Public Service, where a court convicted them for various corruption offenses and ordered them to jointly compensate government with 50 billion. So even when you have convictions and money is supposed to be paid back, Priscilla, people don't pay this money. Actually, and they don't run to Mars.
And this is what I was saying earlier. You should stop discussing corruption like you're doing a primary for debate. And this is what people come to our TV screens and they start talking about corruption. Like they are, as I told you, like you're discussing girls and boys who is more vulnerable.
Water and fire, which is more important.
You know, like Bachwezi and Nyungu Yamawe. No. Let me tell you, corruption in third world countries, and not only Uganda, cannot go. Why? Because the benefactors are the ones who are on top of everything. You won't be surprised. Some of the reports that have come out in most of the African countries, even some of the Caribbean and North American countries, is that the people who should be fighting corruption benefit more from corruption.
Case in point, down in South Africa, you do have the former President Jacob Zuma. Right? You know, his own bench.
This has show accounts
for corruption.
All social elements of corruption.
You know,
to that.
Let me say, the people in third world countries, because of the poverty scourge, celebrate the corrupt. Because it is easy for the corrupt to give handouts, which help the poor people to survive on. Institutions like cultural institutions in the setup of African countries celebrate the corrupt. Institutions that are religious celebrate the corrupt. Government institutions and political heads celebrate the corrupt. Through the appointments, through promotions. What are you going to do? Mia Priscilla, Mia Chirabo, Mia Felix.
And yet in the fight against corruption, we continue to see officials, government officials, or those that are directly in line with the fight against corruption, calling upon the public to help them fight corruption.
Let me tell you how that happens and how it can't happen. You know, in psychology, if you want to beat someone at your own game, you try to put the responsibility to them.
Or your own game?
Well, at their own, because they're the ones losing. So you must make it look like they're the ones who have failed. A corrupt official will stand here and say, "Bana Uganda mutumazemu amanyi. Temwogera bibe." Now it is our fault, the ones who are whose money you are eating, that we are not giving you the information to arrest you, the ones who are eating the money. Now they're just simply playing a brain game.
You know,
and let's be honest, what can Narwoga, a poor farmer in Kasokoso, whatever, Masaka, what are you going to do?
What
You're going to whistleblow to an officer who has not been paid salary for 6 months?
And the repercussions of it is that that officer will whistleblow your farming, you know, and frustrate you for
Actually, now we are moving to lifestyle audit, and we require the public to report, to give information. If you're investigating Robert Chirabo on your internal, he declared he has only a bicycle and maybe a 50 by 70.
Chirabo,
but an Aroga, let me just write this. But an Aroga, you know, that building in the trading center belongs to Robert Chirabo. If you don't give us information, for us as the people in these offices, we may not know.
There's nothing we can do.
There's nothing we can do.
Let me just ask something.
Blow and let us know.
Let me
so
tell you
can be
something.
able to get these people.
In fact, I don't know, and with due respect, how this, who advised the IGG of this, that person,
regarding lifestyle
that
audit.
person doesn't love the IGG. Tamwagala. Because that approach is going to arrest all government officials.
It should arrest all government officials.
If it can, anyway.
So if it is workable.
If you're talking about lifestyle audits, you don't know what these ministers, 1 year minister, do you know the houses they sleep in?
Heaven on earth.
Oh.
You'll take us there. Anyway, away from
I
that.
know also. I also say
no, so that you can whistleblow. Well, okay, it's definitely not a laughing matter either.
Before we leave this, I think it's also important for us, to me, I believe if the public can get to understand the impact of corruption to this economy.
What kind of impact are you talking about?
Molen.
They are already living the impact because they're having shortage in service delivery to them, poor service delivery to them, or even none at that matter in the required time. So then again, what other impact would
I've
you
heard
be
of the word
to?
Oyomwana Mugezi, yet they are praising a corrupt official. Because when you ask Molen how we see corruption manifested, if the public could know that because of this corruption, some of the simple things they see as normal. I'll give you an example. Today, people are suffering because of floods in this country. People are suffering because the environment is speaking in one way or the other.
The other day, there was a video that has been circulating of a bus that was trying to cross a bridge that fell in, and it ended up also falling in.
Actually, the corruption was for the bus driver, not the government. I don't want to blame government for that. I think that was
here, people are getting money, building in these swamps. The poor cannot. The poor cannot. You go to around Namasuba there and try to construct a funny shelter. Even just plant yams. You see NEMA, you see police officers of all different uniforms, these camouflage black, come for you. The rich person will come. Then begin building anything, putting Mara. The poor, no, Muyengas could be okay because for them they are not.
Sure, that's a swamp.
Okay, where are
in
the
Bukasa, it's a swamp.
I am offended.
And the poor are not allowed. But you know who suffers most? When the flooding happens, these ones have the 4-wheel drive. I don't know if they are 6-wheel drives as well, because they pass through these areas comfortably. For the poor, they are looking for canoes. They are looking for boats to sail them through. So we need to bring corruption to the face of these people and tell them, whatever it takes, we should join hands. Even if it's to hold leaders accountable. A person steals money and comes asking for votes. And you see these people that are really disturbed by corruption saying,
what do you want them to do?
One of the other elements that we also have to recognize is that, you know, the public sector, much as it is engaging in corruption, it's also using its power to ensure that it covers itself up in regards to corruption. So when you call upon whistleblowers, we see people who have been imprisoned for doing exactly that. We see people that have actually disappeared because of doing whistleblowing, for speaking up against the vices and the acts of the public sector. And so there's no protection for the public in this fight against corruption.
Let me just say this, Priscilla, and for me, I'll just say this lastly. We have presented our country to the bar where we have the great line between the haves and the have-nots. And clearly, the have-nots will do anything to live off the haves. That's why you've seen evidently that the have-nots have continued to celebrate the haves, whether they are thieves, whether they are evil, because that is what they have to do to survive.
You wait when they'll eat
Now,
the herbs.
I'll say this as a matter of fact. Days like this become an opportunity for the people, the so-called haves. In Uganda, we would say okwekuba mutima, to take a reflection, to think twice. I can tell you, even if you send us the have-nots to do what much can we do? The haves own the courts, they own the corridors of courts, they're the ones who employed these people, they're the ones who know the biggest people. Where are you going to report them? You know, I've seen people, Priscilla, who's stuck with good evidence. Everywhere you go, they tell you, I didn't go there, say, Chidabo. Gendo bisule.
For me, I just
for your own life, gendo bisule.
Gendo bisule. Very true,
So,
Felix.
I'm telling you that even, you see, let's talk about real corruption. People who steal this money have access to the money. If you care about, close the access. Government officials. And I love the fact that we have a new PS, that is Ndugu Ramadan Ngobi. He seems to be articulate on issues of financial management. Government should simply manage its finances well. Okay. You can't leave money there and you say the kids will go to no mansa, then because you
leave it in the sugar jar,
you leave in the compound, you leave definitely they will take the money. But okay, you know, right. Me and my grandmothers go no nyaka said kuchikondo.
All right. Well, clearly it's definitely a long discussion, and also, of course, the research is there to indicate that the corruption is there. The evidence is there that corruption is here, but now what are the methodologies, what are the strategies, what are the implemented programs that actually will bring realization of the fight against corruption in real time, by the way, and that's which is very, very paramount, because if you see these the judiciary applying what it should be applying minus the interruption of corruption, then you will see justice, and then this will empower or encourage the public to actually participate in the anti-corruption journey. But we still do continue on here at Good Morning Uganda. A can of worms has been opened, but hopefully next week we shall have an authority speaking about this very same subject. But for now, we look into the dailies and what they have to say about the Anti-Corruption Day.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Raising voices.
As a mother, my children depend on me to make this world a safer place for them. I'm not afraid to act when I see violence in the home and in my community. I promise to talk to my neighbors and friends about how we can nurture and protect the children.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
still keeping you informed with what is happening locally and internationally. So make it a day to be a very informed person by starting your day with us from 6:30. Now let's look at also what is happening in the print media this morning. I have the New Vision, Felix has the Daily Monitor and the Daily Nation. Well, November riots, UPDF officer jailed for life. That is the General Court Martial. Strict and to the point. Here we see two of the officers, one jailed for life and the other an LDU sentenced for 35 years in jail. Still the New Vision, ADF flee villages as UPDF advances. And still the Vision brings you the history of coffee, know the history of Uganda's coffee. And in Kenyan politics, Kenyan tycoon endorses Raila. Still in parenting, that is a column in the New Vision, how to help children avoid foul language. But also we look at the education sector here. More so we have Senior 1 Chemistry, Senior 2 Physics, Mathematics, and Senior 3 English are in today's Vision for you.
Commander apply for amnesty, and government tells off BSJ over Congo raid in a health center. Closed over lack of supplies and poor coordination causing COVID jab glitches, says government. Now opposition also demands for plan for reopening schools, and Toyota Crown Athletic versus the BMW 5 Series. Now still in the Daily Monitor, from the archives here we see a photo of General Idi Amin and of course his former Vice President General Mustafa Idrisi at a ceremony to commemorate the 7th anniversary of his coup in Kololo. Now today in history, Bank of Uganda governor arrested, and that is also again on the same day. Smallpox is officially declared eradicated. It was in 1979.
In the New Vision, we begin with the COVID-19 tracker. New confirmed cases 47, positivity rate 1.1%, new death 3, total deaths so far 3,261. Once again, have that mask on, social distance, wash your hands with water and soap or sanitizer before touching the soft parts of your body, but also most importantly, go for your COVID jab so that we fight severe illness, hospitalization and death. While still in the New Vision, we look at today in history. On this very date, the 9th of December, the year 2007, Archbishop of York protests Mugabe's stay in power. And also on the same date, but the year 1961, Tanganyika gets independence from United Kingdom.
Oh, in sports, D-Day, Uganda start battling for points there, and UGC ready to Kenya Golf Day. Now, of course, COVID-19 pandemic, new crisis. Tottenham manager Antonio Conte says that the 8 players and 5 members of the staff have tested positive. In the same way, I'll be looking at 4 in a row for Damani, and also Pastor Modoya seals it for pro style that is in golf.
In the New Vision Sport, we bring you Uganda's swimmers ready to dive in for the competition, but also we look at race track that is in Butambala this time around, and of course so much regarding the Premier League and all the games that you should expect. But don't forget, our very own Ruben will be here to give you all that you need to know, the updates in the world of sports. So the sports lovers, do not miss that.
Now in the Daily Nation, we're looking at Uhuru Brigade endorses Raila, and also special seating for Parliament to amend electoral laws, but also beauty goes green banana fiber hair extensions that are now still in the same papers. A miracle of miners rescued after 6 days. They give you a recount on what happened and how they were able to save their lives. We do really appreciate and thank God for such a miracle. But also, what else we want to share with you is movements and how the roads are looking this morning for some of you who are trying to find yourself or your way to Kampala. With Priscilla, most definitely.
Well, Thank you so much, Felix Nkunda. Now, regarding traffic this morning, we want to look at some of the areas. There's, the Acacia Road or Acacia Avenue was newly done, as it's now officially opened. It does have so many traffic lights at the different junctions. However, interesting to note that the traffic lights only give you room of 5 seconds. If they go green, 5 seconds later, they're going to go red, which is very funny and ironic. And I'm going to show you how ironic it is that it's now leading to more traffic jam within the areas of Kololo than it was before, which is a challenge that, of course, I call upon KCCA to be able to look into that so that we can be able to deal away with this created traffic jam that never existed initially. So picking it up from Acacia Mall, you can see that the route is quite clear, not much of traffic that you are seeing there. And now on the Acacia Avenue, we do have these 3 spots that all have traffic lights right now that do manage. When the road was reconstructed, they put traffic lights at all these particular routes. And the routes that I'm talking about, of course, you do have Upper Kololo Terrace, and then you also do have the Lower Kololo Terrace, and of course the Gold Coast Road that also leads to the Acacia Avenue this morning. Now, as you can see, right from Midway, the road up onto the interaction with what is the Acacia Avenue, there's traffic jam. There's actually red lines, which is something that we hadn't seen previously. These were routes that were used as alternative routes for people to avoid the traffic that is experienced every single morning on the Kampala-Jinja Highway, especially between Nakawa, Lugogo, and then where you do have internal affairs and stretching right onto the Ginger Road traffic light. So these were the alternative routes for people to get into the heart of the city. Today, the story is different. These are the no-go routes for people to actually get into the heart of the city. And so you get to see these red zones are simply because of the traffic lights. And each of the traffic lights here, especially the ones that manage the traffic within these particular terrace roads, Upper Kololo and Lower Kololo Terrace Road, they can only give you a green leverage of 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, it closes or it goes into red, and then you have to wait for a long time. So I don't know if the system was just reversed, that you wait for 5 minutes and then it allows passage of 5 seconds. So that is something that needs to be looked into, and it does give you interpretation into the rest of the traffic that then builds up into the Gulf Coast traffic lights, and then that also gives you an indicator of traffic that you are experiencing on Yusuf Lule, between Yusuf Lule and what is known as Garden City. Now, between Garden City or the Oasis Mall roundabout and the Ginger Road traffic lights this morning, of course, you do have some red zones around the interaction here to Oasis Mall, and simply because of the back route access road that has become convenient for so many people. If they're coming in from Yusuf Lule or coming in from Nile Avenue, rather than go through the traffic jam and the traffic lights of Ginger Road, they will use this access road through Centenary Park and then be able to connect to Wampel Avenue, and then thereafter they can decide either go through Wampel Avenue, Upper Kololo to connect to any other part of the city, or just come back to the Airtel roundabout. But they would definitely have avoided the traffic jam, which would be again my recommendation. You can avoid this traffic jam here because now there's traffic officers that manage it, meaning that you're going to be longer, you're going to stay longer here than the time that the traffic lights do give you. So you can use that access route through Centenary Park and then land yourself onto the Wampel Avenue, and then you'll be able to get into the rest of the day's business without so much of a worry of jam. But looking on the Kampala-Jinja Road between the traffic lights and the Airtel roundabout, you do have red zones onto the roundabout. You do have traffic that is coming in from Wampel Avenue, and again, this is majorly caused by the fact that people are taking longer on the access routes that I talked about, Upper Kololo and Lower Kololo, so they would rather come back to Wampel Avenue and bear the traffic in advance. So that is also giving you a picture of the traffic there. You also do have traffic that is coming in from Nakawa and is building up right from internal affairs onto the Airtel roundabout. You do have a lot of traffic indicators on Access Road, between Access Road and Mukwano Road. Of course, you do know that the Kampala flyover is continuously going to be affecting the traffic between Entebbe Road, Mukwano Road, and so those are the indicators of traffic. But also just before the roundabout here, Mukwano roundabout, there's dangerous potholes, and so people have to take it a little bit slower to be able to maneuver through the potholes, into the pothole and out of the potholes. So KCCA, the 9 billion, we should be seeing it clearing these potholes, at least for the festivity seasons. And the fact that it's also an industrial area, meaning that the more access it has to heavy vehicles, the more dangerous those potholes are going to come in the near future. Now imagine if it becomes a rainy season, it will be a dangerous and impassable place for small cars. Now some respondents here to our poll question this morning. Good morning, Uganda. I am Andindu Lonzino from Kabare. According to the element of corruption in Uganda, it's lack of close supervision of government projects. I beg to disagree. Lack of close supervision. How much supervision do we need? It's not like we're dealing with children here. Another respondent here says, before anything is done to fight corruption, government should ask themselves how we are handling finances, because it's only dogs that leave money. Poor finance management rises corruption. And that is Joel from Gulu City. Well, thank you so much, Joel from Gulu City. Again, we just re-echo the voices of leaders in regards to corruption. We do have Pope Francis saying corruption is paid by the poor. If you're not going to whistleblow, then you're going to be the one to pay for corruption. We do have another leader who is the current president of the USA, Joe Biden, saying corruption is a cancer that eats away at a citizen's faith in democracy, diminishes the instinct for innovation and creativity. Another leader that has come out to speak in regards to anti-corruption, Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General, saying if corruption is a disease, transparency is an essential part of its treatment. And now finally, Oprah Winfrey also says the truth will always be our shield against corruption. And the one that I love mostly is the one that says the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. That is where the challenge is, and I think that is where the strategy should be built from in the fight against corruption. Molen Kenyana, let's talk about the fight against corruption regarding weather, nature, protection of our environment.
Well, this is something really related, because you look at the fact that the fight that we have right now in terms of corruption and also in terms of climate change are all looking at the finances. So when it comes to environmental protection, you're looking at where the money is going, and most of the conservation plans that are going forward need the money. But so what is being looked at as corrupt is if we stop this chain from going forward in terms of, taking the finances. But also I like what the World Bank Climate Today did post, that is 15 hours ago. They did talk about the cost of corruption go beyond dollar figures. Now, the real damage comes in the form of misdirected and poor quality investments and the failure to counter the effects of climate change. Now, they also say that tackling climate change is a challenge of our time, but addressing other issues that can support those efforts do not distract from them. Now, some of those issues that World Bank Climate is talking about is definitely on climate. So until we address the issue of corruption, then we can talk about better investments in terms of climate action, and that's when we can tackle climate change. So this is still a huge fight. While we're fighting climate change, we still have to fight the corruption. So I think there is a lot to be taken from what World Bank Climate is talking about this morning. But also, there is more news coming in terms of sports and climate change. Guess what? To the lovers of golf, now this game seems to be a dirty game when it comes to what we're looking at as climate action. Now, it is believed that golf courses are taking much more from what is surrounding them instead of being an enjoyable sport and at the same time protect the environment. Now, when we talk about golf courses, these are places that are being fed into with rains, with natural water flows, but at the same time they do need a lot of irrigation, spraying of water. So where is this water coming from? Now on a daily you'll find that a full golf course is fed by the water equal to around 15 swimming pools. Now you can imagine that kind of water that is coming, and they have to be kept a little bit wet. And that's how the game, plays out. And I want to get Ruben's opinion on this. So scientists are arguing that this has become something that is being looked at after more than what is surrounding them. Now, not to mention the fact that when you're creating some of these golf courses, you're clearing out what is there. So the constant mowing of the grass around the courses means that we're also taking away from nature. Not to mention that trees that are being cut to create space for these golf courses. So all this is what scientists are arguing and saying, no, these courses should be also considerate of what has been appearing naturally. And also the article that CNN did post just a few hours ago talking about the same, they were quoting something from Tiger Woods, that is a legend in golf. He did say that he actually loves it playing on dry courses. So I don't think that with golf you still need to be feeding more water into the courses to make sure you can play. So just like Tiger Woods does play on a dry course, why can't we make it a trend to also make these golf courses sustainable? Because it is becoming a dirty game and posing a threat to our natural existence in terms of landscape and the structure of the earth. So this is something that is being forwarded to most of the executives in the game to look at more sustainable ways to make sure that we maintain the game, still enjoy it, but without causing any harm to the environment. Now, away from the golf course, we also want to look at recently there are more reports on the volcanic eruption that did happen in Indonesia, and that was on 4th. Now also about this eruption, it has triggered a lot of earthquakes. Now it's literally like this place in Indonesia, they are sitting on a ring of fire. You look at the fact that this eruption keeps happening and happening each time. Now this did start on 4th of this month, but what is continuous with this eruption is that the lava that is coming out just keeps coming out with the earthquakes as well. But now it is being linked to the heavy rainfall. It seems like this time around it was triggered by the heavy rains across the area. Now what happens is that as the rains keep coming on this area, they melt away, they take away some of that lava that is coming down. And we're talking about Mount Semeru. This is where the volcanic eruption did take place. And now it is also argued that these heavy rains could be connected to the fact that we have more climate change effects and frequent extreme weather events. So you look at some of this rainfall being to that extreme level that they can move the lava from the mountain and hence also trigger more eruptions for this mountain. And Indonesia authorities are already coming up to gather reports that are coming out from the volcanologists around the place that are looking at the fact that if we continue on this trend, they look at should they have more rains in this area. This could be something that is occurring every month, and that means you're looking at large-scale moving people, because now this area is surrounded by a lot of homesteads and a lot of industries around Mount Semeru. Now that means you will have large-scale facilities to make sure that these people are given other places to live, and this is something that is concerning. But at least they're hearing out from the advice that is coming in from volcanologists and also looking at the impact of extreme weather on this particular event. And I think that is something that should be looked at, especially for a lot of areas where we've had volcanic eruption. Italy is one of those countries that have also constantly had volcanic eruption, and also earlier this year we did have one for our neighbors here in Congo, and that actually triggered earthquakes to the extent of the likes of Rwanda towards southwestern Uganda as well. And much of that ash was also coming through, and I think part of Uganda still to the southwestern was seeing that effect of those ashes from that volcanic eruption. So this is still continuing to be a threat, not to mention that it also brings in more gases, toxic gases into the atmosphere. So making sure that this does not become more frequent is still top priority when we talk about fighting climate change and reducing gases in the atmosphere that do trap this kind of heat and in turn bring about what we globally call global warming in simple terms, but that is just the rise of temperatures that has been a big talk when it comes to all these extreme weather events. It is the starting point of creating most of these extreme weather events. But well, let's take a look at the weather events that are happening within the country today. And tapping into our satellites for this morning, we did start off with mostly sunny conditions across much of the country, especially across the northern parts of the country. We also did have sunny weather across southwestern Uganda and also parts of Kabale Highlands. We did have also a sunny morning across northwestern parts of the country. That was across Arua, Gulu, Padel, also around the Choga region. We did start off with also clear skies. Now where you see the gray colors, those are the clear skies indicating sunny conditions. But we also have a mix of cloudy conditions. Looks like mostly within the Lake Victoria Basin and also parts of Midwestern across Masindi already dealing with those cloudy conditions. And it looks like there is a rainy system that is starting to develop towards areas of Masindi, so that can look out for possibly light showers this morning. Now we had that rainy system that did start off from Lake Victoria earlier today, but also it looks like that is propagating more westwards and could bring in more rains towards parts of western Lake Victoria as well as the central Lake Victoria Basin. But that will be also a few areas this system is likely to clear just in a few. Now there is also one that did start off towards areas of Tororo, Jinja. Mostly it's cloudy right now, but we did start off with a little bit of rains earlier, and just like 2 hours ago that area had a few rains, but it looks like the system is still there, and that is what is bringing clouds over that place and could be looking at mostly also a rainy morning for several places, especially those close to Lake Victoria. But we are keeping an eye on this system, and it looks like it might bring in more rains even later in the afternoon. But for now, we'll go ahead and take a look at what is likely to happen for most areas across the country for this morning. Now we start off with southwestern Uganda. We're looking at isolated rains. Those will be across a few areas, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and that system will continue into the afternoon, so you can expect to have those rains again later in the evening. Now we look at eastern Uganda. We are forecasting a sunny morning across that area. It is already sunny, but that will be also mixed with a little bit of clouds, starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade, and most likely even in the afternoon we will continue with sunny intervals. It looks like there is reduced rains over that area. Now the Elgon region still also dealing with a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning, starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade, and also that area might continue with those sunny intervals, though a little bit of rains are likely, especially as we head towards late evening there. We might be having some of those rains. Now eastern parts of central, we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Rudi, Nakasongola, Nakaseke. We are forecasting also light rains. Those will be starting off at 27, and that system is likely to continue into the afternoon, so you can still expect rains over there later in the evening. Now we look at central part of northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, Ajumani, starting off with a sunny sky and looking at a warm 29 degrees centigrade, actually hot for this time in the morning. So that means that we could also be looking at 30s, early 30s, lower 30s by evening. Now we look at central Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We're forecasting those isolated rains again. We already have those clouds starting to develop, so that might bring in a little bit of rains also later in the afternoon, but that will be only over a few places. Now we look at southwestern Uganda, where we have Masaka, we have Kalisizo, Sembabule, Rakai. We are forecasting isolated rains, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and it looks like that system will continue into the afternoon, so you can still expect to have those wet weather conditions later in the afternoon. Now the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Jinja, Tororo, Busia, Uganda, we did start off with a little bit of rains this morning across that area, but that is still in the forecast for different areas. We will start off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade, but that system is likely to clear up as we head into the afternoon, so that will be carrying for a mix of clouds and sunshine later in the evening. Now, most of northern Uganda and the Karamoja region, eastern Uganda, looks like we're going to maintain mostly sunny intervals, and there are still reduced wet weather conditions across that area, and that might also be the similar situation as we head into the rest of the week and also towards the weekend. But we'll be giving you more of those updates, especially as we head into that weekend, to look at what areas will be at least getting a little bit of pickup in wet weather conditions. But I can tell you one thing, the northern sector is still a lot dry with reduced rainy conditions. Well, we will have a Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that, and then later we have sports coming up with Ruben. But also not forgetting that the forecast that we get every morning here is courtesy of the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. These are the guys that are responsible for the weather and climate information across Uganda, so we want to give a shout out to our forecasters there that make sure that we get this forecast every morning. Well, my name is Molin Kenyana. I want to wish you a nice day.
Tune in to UBC TV this Thursday, December 9th at 7:30 p.m. to watch the exciting Rwenzori Mountains of the Moon documentary starring Golola Moses and Miss Lily Ajarova.
I have a saying of saying that nothing is impossible.
Catch all the action as they attempt to traverse the Margarita Peak, the highest point in Uganda.
Sinuk Uganda Limited and JP Wong Energy present to you the Sinuk Q4 Oil and Gas Supplier Development E-Conference 2021 under the theme Unveiling the Kingfisher Project Opportunities After Final Investment Decision. The panelists will include Soji Koledat, Business Development Manager JP Wong Energy, Zhao Bin, Representative COOEC, Evans Nan, Deputy Representative CSCEC, Emmanuel Mugarura, Chief Executive Officer AUGOS, John K. Walugembe, Executive Director Small and Medium Enterprises Foundation, Matthew Chaligonza, National Content Manager Sinuk Uganda Limited, and Alex Biamukama, the National Content Officer Contracts Petroleum Authority Uganda. The event will be moderated by Tony Ukaoto, the Chief Executive Officer Stanbic Business Incubator. The event will be live on UBC TV and all her social media platforms on Thursday the 9th of December 2021 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Did you know that corruption cripples Uganda's development? It's time for you and I to put an end to this. We can work together to end corruption. Let it be your responsibility to report to the established anti-corruption agencies. A corruption-free Uganda starts with you and I. Your right, your role. Say no to corruption. This message is brought to you by the State House Anti-Corruption Unit.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
This week on UBC.
Welcome to one of Africa's highest, most remote and unknown mountain ranges, located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Sinuk Uganda Limited and JP Wong Energy present to you the Sinuk Q4 Oil and Gas Supplier Development E-Conference 2021 under the theme Unveiling the Kingfisher Project Opportunities After Final Investment Decision. The panelists will include Soji Koledat, Business Development Manager JP Wong Energy, Zhao Bin, Representative COOEC, Evans Nan, Deputy Representative CSCEC, Emmanuel Mugarura, Chief Executive Officer AUGOS, John K. Walugembe, Executive Director Small and Medium Enterprises Foundation, Matthew Chaligonza, National Content Manager Sinuk Uganda Limited, and Alex Biamukama, the National Content Officer Contracts Petroleum Authority Uganda. The event will be moderated by Tony Okaoto, the Chief Executive Officer Stanbic Business Incubator. The event will be live on UBC TV and all her social media platforms on Thursday the 9th of December 2021 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. Welcome back from Weather and Nature with Molen Kenyana. And of course, we're still discussing the issue of corruption, and she alluded to that fact so much when